Welcome, everybody, and good morning. We'll call the meeting to order at this time, and with us today is Pastor Philip Moore with Eden Fellowship Ministries. Following that invocation, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, and we ask if you can please stand for both.
First, I'd like to thank the mayor and the city council for this opportunity. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you today with grateful hearts for the opportunity to serve the community of Wichita. As we gather for this council meeting, we seek your guidance, wisdom, and strength. Grant us the clarity to see the issues before us clearly, the wisdom to make decisions that reflect justice and compassion, and the courage to act in the best interests of all of our residents. Help us to listen with open minds and hearts, respecting the diverse perspectives and experiences that shape our city. May our discussions be filled with mutual respect and shared commitment to the common good. Guide our words and actions so that they may bring honor to you and benefit to those we serve. We ask for your blessing upon this meeting and upon all who call Wichita home. May our work today contribute to a community that is more just, more loving, and more united. In your holy name we pray, amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor Moore. Madam Clerk, please call the first item.
Approve the minutes of the regular meeting of May 14th, 2024.
Do we have approval of the minutes or any changes or corrections to those minutes?
With a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 6-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Awards and proclamations. Today, our proclamations are National Water Safety Month, National Public Works Week, Huntington's Disease Awareness Month, and then we have a recognition for Music Theater of Wichita.
May we please ask Parks and Recreation to please come forward? Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. This is the City of Wichita's Park and Recreation Department. This proclamation reads, the City of Wichita founded in 1870, whereas the City of Wichita is committed to improving the safety and security of all those living and visiting our community. Swimming and aquatic-related activities play a vital role in good physical and mental health and enhance the quality of life for all people. Whereas education regarding the topic of water safety is essential to the prevention of drownings and recreational water-related injuries, the city is dedicated to creating safe swimming facilities, aquatic programs, and related activities, which provide healthy places to recreate, learn, grow, and build self-esteem, confidence, and sense of self-worth, all of which contribute to the quality of life in our community. Whereas many lives are saved by the ongoing efforts and commitment to public awareness of water safety issues and initiatives by the recreational water industry. And whereas it is of vital importance to communicate water safety rules and programs to families and individuals of all ages, whether owners of private pools, users of public swimming facilities, or visiting water parks. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Lily Wu, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as National Water Safety Month in the city of Wichita and encourage all citizens to adhere to safety practices while enjoying any water recreation activities.
Good morning, and thank you, City Council and Mayor Wu, for allowing me to speak with you today on such an important topic of water safety. I'm Joe Martin. I'm the Aquatic Supervisor for the City of Wichita. National Water Safety Month is an annual awareness campaign coordinated by the Association of Pool and Spa Professionals with support from the National Recreation and Park Association, NRPA, and the American Red Cross and the World Water Park Association. This proclamation recognizes that there is a vital role in swimming and aquatic facilities and aquatic-related activities that play a part in maintaining good physical and mental health, as well as enhancing quality of life. Water safety education plays a crucial role in preventing drowning and recreational water-related injuries. It is important for us to communicate water safety rules and programs to both families and individuals of all ages. Drowning is the leading cause of accidental death for children under the age of 14, especially in home settings such as backyard pools, bathtubs, ponds, and 5-gallon buckets. It is imperative that we continue to emphasize the importance of constant supervision of our youth in or near water. Education access to swimming lessons is vital to prevent more unintentional death. I want to take the time to mention the American Red Cross and the Centennial Campaign for partnering with Wichita Park and Recreation to bring scholarships to ensure access to families in the Wichita community, which provides those opportunities for that water safety education. Wichita swimming pools are currently slated to open on Memorial Day, May 27th, from 1 to 5 p.m. We want to encourage families and individuals to take advantage of our facilities and the amenities that they offer, but also ensure that we are giving attention to those around us that we are bringing to the pool with us. Our children are our most precious thing that we have, and our attention should be on them while they are having fun and enjoying the water. Let's put down the phones and enjoy our time being spent with them. I want to thank everyone for their time and effort in putting this proclamation together and the dedication to allow me to come and speak about this very important topic. Most of all, I hope everyone has a safe and fun summer in and around the water.
Thank you again for that reminder of water safety, especially during the summertime, both around our public pools and in private pools. May I please ask the City of Wichita's Public Works and Utilities Department to come forward? Good morning. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Y'all can keep coming. Hi, good morning. I like this. Thank you. I like this big group. And Carrie. I love this. I love this nice big crowd. These are our teammates, and we really appreciate you all. These are our Public Works Department's teammates, and again, it's my honor to share this proclamation, which reads, whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Wichita, Kansas. Whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees from state and local governments and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest of citizens, civic leaders, and children of Wichita, Kansas to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest in the importance of public works and public works programs. Whereas year 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Lily Wu, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim this week, May 19th through the 25th, as National Public Works Week in the City of Wichita, and encourage all citizens to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protect our health, safety, and quality of life.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words today on behalf of our great staff. Last year at the same time, we had probably a handful of people up here with me. This year I said, why don't we get a couple representatives from each of our divisions? And I kind of failed to do the math, but I'm glad to have so many people here with me today. So my name is Gary Jansen. I'm the Director of Public Works and Utilities. The theme for this year's National Public Works Week is Advancing Quality of Life for All. I think that is so appropriate considering the enormous scope of responsibility the Public Works and Utilities Department is entrusted with and its role in maintaining and improving the quality of daily life for all Wichitans. I'd like to first provide a few historic tidbits which relate to the two largest infrastructure projects in our city's history that are currently underway: Wichita Water Works, our new water treatment plant, and the biological nutrient removal work that's underway at our main sewer treatment plant. In the 1880s, Wichita's sewer drainage was by way of an open channel. We've obviously come a long way since then. And closing that open channel was not universally supported, as some citizens were concerned that the waste would just be hidden and create dangerous gases. That is a far cry from where we are today with the BNR project, which has a major odor control component. As for our water sources, 2024 marks 100 years since the American Water Works and Electric Company started investigating how to supply Wichita with better quality soft water. This resulted in the choice to utilize the Equus which remain an integral part of our water supply today. Within the next year, we will commission a state-of-the-art, world-class water production facility, which will continue to use the Equus aquifer as a primary source of raw water. Much of the work completed by our talented staff is very visible to the public, with large projects like Wichita Water Works, the recently completed Amending Bridge, and maintenance of infrastructure assets from water, sewer, storm sewer, maintaining approximately 500 public facilities and the city's streets. However, there are many behind-the-scenes services that the average citizen may be unaware of. Our fleet division maintains the emergency service vehicles for our police and fire departments, and our environmental health division includes child care licensing, the construction and demolition landfill, and various environmental remediation activities. Public Works and Utilities also emphasizes public education, whether it be sewer treatment staff giving tours to biology classes, environmental quality and sustainability staff who educate on air quality and sustainability initiatives, or the many divisions who have a role in educating the public on various regulations and compliance. I've only scraped the surface of the impactful work our dedicated staff undertakes every day to keep our city running and to protect public safety, health, and welfare. I would like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of our nearly 700 employees for the role they play in making Wichita a great place to live, work, and play, including the group with me today, again, representing our 15 divisions. One last quick comment that was not originally part of my talking points today, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. I wanted to give a special shout out to our water production staff, many of whom have been working around the clock since the storm Sunday night took out power and communications to the Equus Beds well field. They were able to bring select wells back online with generators and maintain water supply capacity. The power supply for most of the facilities in our well field, including the substation poles and lines, are ours to own and maintain, so this was not as easy as waiting on Evergy to take care of it. This is just one more example of the wonderful things that our staff does on a regular basis. I want to thank all of them again for everything that they do, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
We'll just do a big picture. Thank you.
Gary failed to mention 5,300 lane miles of streets are maintained by our Public Works Department. And that is something to really recognize, and I thank you again for keeping our streets maintained and repaired, including potholes. Thank you. May I please ask the Hereditary Neuro Disease Center representatives to please come forward? Good morning. The proclamation reads, whereas Huntington's disease is an inherited degenerative brain disorder that affects 41,000 Americans and currently has no effective treatment of cure. Whereas since the discovery of the gene that causes Huntington's disease in 1993, the research pace has accelerated, and we celebrate the 31st anniversary of HD genetic testing. And whereas Huntington Study Group, HSG, and other national health organizations are dedicated to funding a cure for the disease. Whereas Kansas researchers at the Hereditary Neurological Disease Center and other state institutions are conducting important research and provide evaluation, education, and multidisciplinary services. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Lily Wu, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Huntington's Disease Awareness Month in the City of Wichita and encourage all citizens to participate in events to increase their awareness about Huntington's disease.
My name is Birdie Robertson. I'm a social worker at the Hereditary Neurological Disease Center. On behalf of HNDC, thank you, the City of Wichita, for acknowledging the month of May as Huntington's Disease Awareness Month. HNDC is a grassroots nonprofit that started here in Wichita almost 30 years ago. We're meeting a need of grassroots families here in Wichita that needed services and education, information, advocacy. Huntington's disease is a genetic neurodegenerative disease. Symptoms include involuntary movements, psychiatric symptoms, and cognitive decline. It's frequently described as a combination of Parkinson's, ALS, and MS. There's no cure, but our goal is not only to help the families as they walk the journey of Huntington's disease, but also is to raise awareness so that we have a rare disease that we bring awareness to. Our 11th annual Walk of Hope is going to be here in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, and other surrounding states. So thank you, City of Wichita, for helping us reach our goal of spreading rareness to awareness. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to welcome Brian Markham with the Music Theater of Wichita and his guests from outside of Wichita to introduce themselves and share some news.
Hi, I'm Brian J. Markham, the Artistic Director of Music Theater Wichita. Thank you, Mayor Lily Wu, for having us, and council members. It's so nice to be here. We are embarking on our 53rd season starting tomorrow. We open our first show of the season, Gypsy. We will be doing 5 big shows like we always do. This is the first time since the pandemic that we're glad to say that all 5 shows will be back in Century 2, which is very exciting for us. No more outdoor theater this year. We have notoriously brought all of our leads from New York, and they're always usually Broadway professionals, but we're really proud of our resident ensemble, and that's these people that you see behind us. Our resident ensemble is comprised of musical theater students from around the country who go to various schools and have their eyes on the prize of making it to Broadway one day. And you can't go to a show in New York. There's very rarely a tour that comes through where you don't see someone who's been through here who has now made their way to Broadway. So these are some more people that we're adding to our alumni, that will be adding to our alumni base, that will make it there one day, and you're going to get to see them at a much lower price point than you will when they get to New York. But they are from schools all over, like I say, and this is just a small handful of them. Over the summer, there'll be about 22 of them that show up. They bring their families here, and those families go back and talk about Wichita. We bring lots of people from New York, like I said, and those people go back to New York and talk about Wichita. So we spread the good word of Wichita, Kansas, as far and wide. And I'm going to let them come up and introduce themselves and say what school they're from, and then we have one little performance for you that you're going to be blown away by. All right? You want to start, Lacey?
Hi, my name is Lacey Jack. I'm a rising senior at Roosevelt University in Chicago.
Hi, I'm Hannah Remian. I'm also a rising senior at Roosevelt University in Chicago.
I'm Stephanie Ruding Shearer, and I'm a rising senior at the University of Michigan.
I'm Kevin Bowman, and I'm a rising junior at Texas State University.
I'm Caleb Sporer, and I'm a rising junior at Texas State University.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Miranda Sanchez, and I'm a rising sophomore at the University of Oklahoma.
Hi, my name's Evan Tilka. I'm also a rising senior at the University of Michigan.
Hello, everyone. I'm Keegan Lavery, and I'm a rising senior at Oklahoma City University.
Yeah, and so we have other schools too from Elon in North Carolina and all over the place. And so we're so proud of them. And they can sing and dance. And when we audition for these, we see all the roles that we have coming to this summer, we saw over 930 people who want to come and be a part of our season. And these are some of the best that you're going to see. So I'm going to ask Stephanie to come up and see if she can, we got some technology to figure out. Find the JBL something, you'll figure it out. The kids, they're good. They got the stuff quick. But our shows are Gypsy, 9 to 5, which is the Dolly Parton musical. Disney's Frozen, which is exciting for us because there are only 2 theaters in the country after it's been performed on Broadway and around the country on a tour that are doing it, and we're the second one. And then we do Matilda and Beautiful, the music of Carole King. And it's a really great season, and we are calling it #season Year of the Woman because they're all strong female leads. And we will be celebrating other strong female people of Wichita pre-show every night. And we ask that you, once you get out of swimming safely in the city pool, that you then buy a ticket and come see us in the evening at Century 2. And Stephanie is going to sing from our big show this season, the one that we're super excited about, Frozen. She's going to sing a song that you might know. You might. You got it?
I got it.
The snow glows white on the mountain tonight, not a footprint to be seen. A kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm the queen. The wind is howling like this swirling storm inside. Couldn't keep it in, heaven knows I've tried. Don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Well, now they know. Let
let it go, let it go. Turn away and slam the door. I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway. It's funny how some distance makes everything seem small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do to test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. Let it go. Let it go. I'm one with the wind and sky. Let it go. Let it go. You'll never see me cry. Here I stand, and here I'll stay. Let the storm rage on. My power flurries through the air into the ground. My soul is spiraling in frozen fractals all around. And one thought crystallizes like an icy blast. I'm never going back. The past is in the past. Let it go, and I'll rise like the break of dawn. Let it go, let it go. The perfect girl is gone. Here I stand in the light of day. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway. Thank you.
I don't even think it's 10 o'clock yet. That was great, Stephanie. So thank you. Thanks for having us, Mayor. We're so excited to be part of the fabric of Wichita, and we hope that you all come see us. We open tomorrow night with Gypsy. Come on down. All right, thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, and the Music Theater of Wichita Ensemble. Councilmember Johnston.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful, wonderful group, wonderful voices. My wife and I absolutely love theater. We have season tickets, usually on Saturday night. This time we'll be on Friday night. And I would propose that we just cancel the meeting and let them sing.
Second.
We do have to get back to rehearsals.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll have our meeting then. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Glasscock.
Yeah, I just want to say I've been here 125 days, and I've never seen that many people smile when there's somebody speaking before the bench, so thank you for that, and encourage everybody to get season tickets as well.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move that we start every meeting with that song. No second?
Thank you all. Really appreciate it. And now we have our next agenda item. It should be the public agenda, 5 minutes maximum, and we have one speaker.
That's Jason Wood, support the state of Israel.
Good morning, Mayor Wu and City Council. My name is Jason Wood. I live on South Deneen at Pawnee and Mays. I'm in Councilman Glasscock's district. Congratulations, Mayor Wu, on your victory. I know it's late, but congratulations. I'm glad to have a more conservative city council, and definitely glad to have Do You Know Who I'm Whipple gone. I've been involved and engaged on social media with Councilmember Johnson for 7+ years. We are on opposite ends of most issues. However, he has always been respectful, polite, professional, and kind. He always answers my messages, even when I don't currently live in his district. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Over the last 8 months, many have spoken out asking the City Council to pass a ceasefire resolution in support of Hamas in Gaza and in opposition to the State of Israel. I've noticed none of the pro-Hamas speakers have called on Hamas to release their hostages, surrender, or renounce terrorism and violence. Most of the speakers haven't even bothered to mention the reason the current war is ongoing. The reason is because on October 7th, Hamas, whom the people of Gaza elected in 2006, broke the ceasefire in place and attacked the State of Israel. I'm here today to speak in support of the nation and the people of Israel. The preamble of the Hamas Charter: Israel will exist and will continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it, just as it obliterated others before it. Article 7 of the Hamas Charter: the day of judgment will not come until Muslims fight Jews and kill them. Then the Jews will hide behind rocks and trees, and the rocks and trees will cry out, "O Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind me. Come and kill him." In contrast, we have a quote by Golda Meir, who was Prime Minister of Israel during the 73 war. "We can forgive you for killing our children, but we can never forgive you for making us kill your children." Hamas murdered approximately 1,200 people, included in that number 45 citizens of the United States. 252 hostages were taken, including Americans. 132 hostages are believed to still be held, including 2 from the fighting all the way back 10 years ago. Included in that number, depending on the source, 3 to 8 Americans are still being held in Gaza. Women were raped, babies were killed, homes burned. The entire attack was a huge war crime. As Hamas attacked, civilians from Gaza were mixed in with the Hamas terrorists. More Jews were murdered on October 7th than in any other time since the Holocaust. Hamas destroyed the border crossing in which a good portion of their aid came through. Speaking of their aid, Hamas supplied the people of Israel with food, water. Hamas dug up the water pipes to build rockets, fuel, electricity, medical care for serious conditions such as cancer that they treated in Israel, etc. Since the Israeli withdrawal from Gaza in 2005, the Hamas military budget is $100 to $350 million per year. Hamas has used tens of billions of dollars in aid from all over the world to dig tunnels, buy and build rockets, and prepare their terrorists to continue attacks on Israel. If good people were control in Gaza, Gaza could be the Singapore of the Middle East with resorts, beaches, and a good standard of living for everyone. Gaza could be a tourist destination with people coming from all over the world to vacation. Instead, the people in control would rather murder Jews. The military bases of the State of Israel are visible on Google Earth and are not near civilian areas. Hamas hides their military bases deep underground, 100 feet or more under hospitals, schools, universities, and residential areas. They want their people to be killed when Israel attacks legitimate military targets. Hiding your military facilities in civilian areas is a war crime. Hamas uses their own people as human shields and then complains when they are killed. The idea that Israel is responsible for the civilians of the enemy is absurd. During World War II, should the Allies have provided supplies to German or Japanese civilians? The simple fact is the majority of the people of Germany supported Hitler, and the majority of the people of Gaza support Hamas. There is no genocide. There is a war that Hamas started. If there was an enclave on the border of the United States and rockets were being fired on a daily basis into the United States, and then there was an invasion in which tens of thousands of Americans were murdered and thousands of hostages taken, that place would cease to exist. The U.S. military would do what was necessary to permanently stop the attacks. The claim of the Jewish people to the land of Israel dates back to Bible times. There were no Arabs, and the Muslim religion hadn't even been thought of. The Romans named the area Palestine when they conquered it over 1,000 years after the Jewish people first took control of their land, possession of their land. There has never been a nation anywhere called Palestine. In conclusion, Hamas broke the rules, Hamas committed war crimes, Hamas decided when, where, and how this war would start. Hamas gladly sacrifices their own people to support their goal of wiping Israel off the map. The State of Israel has the duty, responsibility, and right to defend herself. All freedom and peace-loving people should support Israel in their fight against terrorism and evil. Thank you for your time.
Consent agenda items 1 through 17.
Are there any items or corrections? I see Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull item 7.
Any other council members? I see none. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda without item number 7?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 6-0. Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to take a chance here to highlight this item. It's a $100,000 donation from the Wichita Parks Foundation for the inclusive playground that will be at Clapp Park later this year. Thank you to the Parks Foundation. Again, I always like to highlight some good things going on. This is going to help with the equipment purchase for an inclusive playground, so that way, hopefully every kid around the city, especially around South, East, and North Wichita who do not have a handicap playground close by, just so that way every kid has a chance to be a kid. So I do appreciate this donation on behalf of the Parks Foundation, and can't wait till we get to the ribbon cutting. And our Parks Department, they're doing a great job moving this project along. So just wanted to highlight that, and with your permission, go ahead and take the recommended action.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 6-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Board of Bids and Contracts and Wichita Airport Authority Board of Bids and Contracts dated May 20th, 2024.
Morning, Mayor, City Council, Josh Lauber, Department of Finance. Just waiting on my screen to update. The Board of Bids and Contracts for May 20th, 2024 results in the following items. For purchasing, we have 8 electronically powered utility vehicles for Kansas Golf and Turf Incorporated for an aggregate bid total of $142,532.78. We have the Wildland Fire PPE clothing and personal deployment gear from McKinsey Enterprises DBA The Supply Catch Incorporated for an aggregate bid total of $73,902.45. For Wichita Police Department, we have the chemical agent detector for Safeware Incorporated in the amount of $82,000. And for airport, we have the Colonel James Jabara Taxi Lane D construction for Pearson Construction LLC in the amount of $1,603,489.50. This is how to become a vendor with the City of Wichita. These are open requests for proposals out on the street. And publicly, I'd like to state this Friday will be our first bid opening since May 3rd. For the public, we will have a special Board of Bids convening at 3 p.m. Friday, May 24th. And I recommend you approve the bid awards as recommended, and I'll try to answer your questions.
Thank you. Thank you for that update, and thank you for all you've done, especially during the last few weeks. I know your job is already challenging, and it made it even more challenging, so thank you for what you've done. Could you go to slide 4?
Sure.
Just curious, I don't have any questions, but I don't remember ever seeing this, the non-responsive vendor.
Yes.
Can you explain what that means? I'm just curious more than anything.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilmember Tuttle. On the bid specifications, we outlined in the bid document that they would have to respond to all items. The vendor unfortunately did not respond to all items. They were non-responsive.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks again for all you do, Josh.
Thank you so much.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 6-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Public hearing and tax exemption request, Diversified Services, Inc.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Tim Goodpasture with the City Manager's Office of Development Services. The item before you today is a request for a tax abatement on a business expansion. Diversified Services was founded in 1961 in Wichita. It provides metal processing services for the aerospace, space, and rocket industries. It provides non-destructive inspections, heat treatment, shot peening, and painting. It is located at 1419 South McLean Boulevard. Diversified Services plans to construct a 24,000 square foot manufacturing facility located approximately at 750 East Murdoch, which is just east of the elevated rail corridor near Ascension St. Francis Hospital. The company is intending to invest approximately $2 million in real property improvements, as well as an additional $500,000 in new machinery and equipment. The company currently employs 265 people in Wichita and projects that it will add 17 new employees over the next 5 years, with wages in excess of $46,000 a year. The project qualifies for a 100% property tax abatement. So based on its capital investment of $2 million, it qualifies for a 40% abatement. Based on job creation of 17 new jobs, it qualifies for a 30% abatement. Being in a regional growth plan sector of advanced manufacturing, it qualifies for an additional 10% abatement. Utilizing state of Kansas incentives, it qualifies for a 10% abatement, and it qualifies for a 25% abatement for being in a redevelopment area. This is in an opportunity zone area. There will be no property tax abatement on the land. The Economic Development Exemption Program is a state of Kansas tax abatement program that targets 3 sectors: manufacturing, warehousing and distribution, or research and development, all for products utilized in interstate commerce. There is no sales tax exemption associated with the Economic Development Exemption Program. The estimated value of a 1-year property tax abatement based on a $2 million investment in real property improvements is approximately $57,600, with the city's share being approximately $16,300. The taxes will not be generated if the project does not occur. The Center for Economic Development and Business Research at Wichita State University conducted a cost-benefit analysis which showed the overall ratio of benefits to cost for the city of Wichita of 5.24 to 1, 4.27 to 1 for the city's general fund, and 7.43 to 1 for the city's debt service fund. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation that the City Council close the public hearing and place on first reading the ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of documents for the Economic Development Exemption for Diversified Services Incorporated and authorize the necessary signatures. Robert Babst, who is president of Diversified Services, is here and can answer any questions as it relates to the company, and I would be happy to answer any questions as well.
Questions for staff, beginning with Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you, Tim. Great job as always. I always say by the time you bring something to us, a lot of work has gone into the background. I'm sure you're not going to be surprised by my questions because I'm pretty consistent with this, but just want to make sure that the community understands. So if you could please go to slide 19. Can you just give your brief explanation of why 5.24 to 1 is so great for the city of Wichita?
Absolutely. So anytime there's a tax abatement in the state of Kansas, we're required to run a cost-benefit analysis. We utilize the Center for Economic Development and Business Research at Wichita State University to do that third-party analysis. And there is no requirement that there is any projected ratio, that it's 1 to 1, that it's 5 to 1, 10 to 1. There's no requirement under state statute that there be a specific requirement. The city of Wichita has a requirement that it's at least 1 to 1. And in this scenario, a 5.24 to 1 scenario for the city overall is a very strong return. So for every dollar we're investing in a property tax abatement, we're getting over $5 in return.
Great. And 17 good paying jobs, new jobs.
Absolutely.
And finally, is there any risk to the city?
There is no risk at all. In fact, again, if this project does not occur, there's nothing that happens. There's no taxpayer dollars at risk.
Thank you very much.
Tim, can you tell us what are the current taxes for that property?
Off the top of my head, I cannot. I was trying to pull that up, but with the limited access that we have to internet, we're not able to access all of the websites that we would like to, including the Sedgwick County Treasurer's site.
Any further questions for staff? I see none. We'll open it up for public comment. I see none. We'll bring it back to the bench. Any further discussion? This resides in Vice Mayor Ballard's district. I did ask her if it was okay. She has not responded. So I wanted to hear from anyone else if they wanted to move this.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I move that the city council close the public hearing and place on first reading the bond ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of documents for the economic development exemption for Diversified Services Incorporated and authorize the necessary signatures.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 6-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Ordinance amending section 15.01.590 pertaining to fireworks.
Good morning, Mayor Wu, City Council members, Battalion Chief O'Cades with the Wichita Fire Department, here to present the proposed fireworks ordinance. Before starting with the presentation, I would like to share history on the ordinance prior to the 2023 fireworks season. Unknown exactly when the city created a 6-foot rule, but up to 2022, no fireworks were allowed to be shot over 6 feet. In order to enforce that ordinance, every vendor had to submit to the Wichita Fire Department a product list along with 2 items of each product to test in order to verify that they did not go over 6 feet. This was time-consuming to the Community Risk Reduction Division and costly to each vendor. In 2016, Wichita Fire first started firework enforcement teams to police the city on illegal fireworks. Since then, we have modified the enforcement teams to include 2 Wichita police members along with 1 firefighter for safety purposes. With the surrounding communities allowing and following the state statute, fireworks continue to be very difficult to enforce the city's 6-foot rule. After the 2022 fireworks season, Fire Chief Snow tasked the Community Risk Reduction Division to evaluate and review the current fireworks ordinance for public safety, along with the possibility to mirror the state statute. We created a fireworks committee with members from City Council, Wichita Police, Wichita Parks, and Wichita Fire Department members to assist with evaluating the existing ordinance, which we first met in November of 2022. In February 2023, Wichita Fire presented a 2-phase approach to changing the fireworks ordinance. As you can see, these are the members of the fireworks committee, the representations from city departments. But at the same time, we've also created a citizen fireworks committee that represented each district, a liaison to have voice from each part of the city to be able to communicate on the well-being of their areas to be able to better the ordinance itself. And we also met with all the vendors that were selling within the city of Wichita from the fireworks sales. In May of 2023, Wichita Fire Department presented Phase 1, which included legalizing aerial fireworks from July 1st through the 4th, safe and sane fireworks during the fireworks season, which is June 27th through the 4th, and continue to remain the legal shooting times of 10 a.m. to midnight during those dates of June 27th through July 5th. We also we were also going to deploy enforcement teams from after midnight on July 1st through the 4th to make sure that people were abiding by the ordinance that was created for 2023. And we also increased the fines associated with the illegal shooting of fireworks. After each year, Wichita Fire Department gathers data from the fireworks season to evaluate areas of concern and needs a modification from the number of working fires we responded to, medical emergencies, injuries, and the number of firework complaint calls 911 receives from their non-emergent line. The Wichita Fire Department responded to a total of 75 fire-related fireworks calls. Out of those 75 calls, 4 of them were working structural fires with an estimated loss of $60,000. 39 injuries were reported to area medical facilities within the city of Wichita, and the non-emergent 911 hotline received 1,046 calls. As you can see, this is the charts that's the different types of fire types calls that we responded to, and this is a 5-year data information that we gather and be able to put on here to share the comparison from previous years also. And this is also the data that we receive and collect for the injuries that occurred from the youngest of age to the oldest. And the mode of injuries is basically what we have here is just the number one cause of injury that are reported to the medical facilities and to the Wichita Fire Department. As part of the Fireworks Committee initial Phase 2 plan and review of the 2023 fireworks season, we are recommending Phase 2 to allow aerial fireworks to be sold within the city of Wichita, the shooting of aerial fireworks July 3rd through the 5th, and Safe and Sane fireworks from June 27th through July 5th. Dates and times are consistent with previous ordinances and closely mirror the state statute. Working with legal, we are also adding new language making it illegal to shoot fireworks from moving vehicles, from bicycles, motorcycles, electrical, scooters, cars, or other motor vehicles, ignite fireworks within 50 feet of the stands, possess or ignite non-consumer grade fireworks, engage in the manufacture of fireworks for sale or personal use without a permit issued by the state of Kansas, and engage in a show without a proper permit for pyrotechnic shows. Additional costs were going to be, financial considerations is going to be offset by the sales of permit fees. Those would be associated with our enforcement teams looking for illegal selling of fireworks without permits and to enforce the midnight enforcement of illegal shooting after the ordinance. Since 2016, the Wichita Fire Department has attempted to enforce the fireworks ordinance and made changes due to safety of our firefighters to include Wichita Police in the confiscation of fireworks. It became difficult to enforce every year due to our neighboring communities allowing fireworks in the state, following the state statute. In 2023 and this year, we continue to make changes for what's in the best interest of the city of Wichita and also feedback from our vendors and our citizens from each district. Fireworks committees recommend City Council to approve the proposed ordinance and authorize necessary signatures.
Questions for staff? Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. This one might be more for Jan. I believe we had somebody reach out about the code 1.4. Could you speak on that one a little bit? What have we found in? Okay, thank you.
So the information that I received from the concerns of that's happening throughout the pyrotechnics industry is that there is a type of firework that falls under consumer grade 1.4 fireworks, and it is labeled UN, United Nations number 1336. That is going to be labeled as 1336, but it also has information that says for professional use. And that professional use is going to have an E-port, which is an electrical port for being able to connect into a monitor, and also an electrical match. So those types of fireworks will be making sure that from our inspection standpoint, we will make sure that those are in a tent, but we want also going to be very in communication with the vendors that they don't supply these tents with this type of fireworks that's a concern right now in the industry.
Is there going to be an inspection process to make sure that they're not selling these? And would that also mean it's available only for people with a professional license to use?
So part of our process from the tent, when we receive the permits for tent permits for fireworks, we conduct a fireworks inspection all the time anyway, and that'll be throughout the 9-day period of the fireworks season to just go there and make sure they're still abiding by the fire safety, but also making sure that they're abiding by what's allowed and what's not allowed within the city of Wichita. So this is just another item that we will add to our list, but we're also going to be hopefully in communication with the vendors to make sure that they don't supply these to this tents, the nonprofit organizations that are going to be staffing these tents.
So if they wanted to make this legal and sell it at the tents, they would have to give you one of these or two of these to test beforehand, and you would approve or not approve of the sample that they've given you?
Well, just because of the labeling of professional use, we would deny that anyway because we wouldn't want that. Those are specifically will fall under the classification of 1.3, which is display fireworks for professional use only.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Councilmember Glasscock.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few questions. So we talked about the fines of 1,000, 1,500, and 2,000. Do those reset every year? Or if someone had a violation last year at the first violation at 1,000, this year they decide to come back and they violate again, will they be a second offense or will it go back down to a first offense?
I would think I'll ask Jan to be able to answer that question.
Good morning. Jan Jarman with the Law Department. They do not reset. So if you have a prior from last year, it would be a second offense this year.
Okay, good. I saw that it was budgeted for 5,000, which I'd be hard pressed to only find that we would have fined 5 violations in the city. So I think it's probably a pretty conservative number. In addition, I know that this is more a subjective question in some ways, but in your understanding, was it safer or was there really no increase? I know that the numbers might have been a little bit different in 2023 compared to previous years. It looks like total number of loss was down in terms of structural loss. Would you say that it was safer 2023 than comparative years? Obviously, there's a little bit difference in terms of structural versus non-structural. Looks like there was more grass fires in 2022 versus 2023, but.
I think it just depends on the time of year and how the weather is during that time period of the fireworks season. But it's also the part of the city that occurs on the values of the houses. During the 22 year and 21 year, that the cost of construction was still pretty high, and as it continues to decrease on the value of construction, the cost of the overall estimated loss is also going to be decreased.
And I would say, as the fire department presenting this to us, you would support this policy in terms of it's not making our community less safe.
Yes, we have discussed this, and this is in the best interest of the city and overall for the citizens.
Okay, and then last question I have, because I know that Councilman Tuttle and Johnston have questions as well. I know that in the past, 2 years, we've had at least multiple incidences of people manufacturing fireworks at their homes. How do we monitor that? Obviously, we're not checking people, but do we have a hotline where people alert us if they think someone's manufacturing?
In previous years, we've had phone calls and messages directly to the fire department, but also 911. So when we receive those, we'll send out, we'll investigate those. And that's one of the reasons why for the 2023 or the 2024 fireworks season, we added new language, because the state statute does have language in there for hobbyist manufacturing, and they would have to be permitted through the state fire marshal's office to correctly be licensed to be able to manufacture their own fireworks. But overall, it's just being able to get information from citizens and neighbors to report when there is a possibility of illegal fireworks or manufacturing being done in neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation. If you could go to slide 30 for me, please. Oh, 30. Thank you. I just wanted to highlight for the community, and Chief Snow, if you want to weigh in, but in 2022, it looks like we kind of had an anomaly where we went way down and then we went back up, and just wanted to highlight for the community, and always tell me when I'm wrong, but we had a break in data that year because one hospital didn't report. So just want to make sure if anybody sees this slide and says, well, what happened in 22? And then, what did we do wrong in 23? We really feel like the numbers are probably consistent, correct?
Yes, so if you add up the numbers from the past 5 years, the average of the 39 is still within the 5-year average of injuries. And the other thing for the 2022 from missing some reports from a couple medical facilities within the city, we also emphasize our public safety announcements on safety and the ordinance itself. So I think that was a very positive effect. So I think from that standpoint, that's really why that year itself stands out from the lesser of injuries that occurred.
Yeah, thank you very much. And now just a few questions, if that's okay. So since November 10th of 2022, we have had a staff-driven committee who's been looking at this, a committee, task force, whatever we want to call it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, Councilmember Holheisel, for sitting on that committee. Appreciate your time?
Yes, so from the initial beginning of the fireworks committee in November of 2022, we've always reached out to our vendors. So discussing the change of the ordinance itself, speaking with district representatives, liaisons from each district, and also the vendors to get feedback, what is in the best interest, not just for the city itself, but also from a business standpoint and from each district. So this two-phase approach has been in the plans from the initial meetings with all the stakeholders that have been involved, part of all of our meetings.
Thank you. It's kind of like you're reading my mind. So we've had a staff-driven committee that has, council member representation and then also content experts from fire, police, different staff. And then we had a citizen committee, correct, that was meeting kind of at the same time and reviewing information and bringing it back to DABs and things, correct?
Yes.
And then you said you have communication with vendors who are content expertise and key stakeholders in this process. Can you please tell me how they were communicated with to make sure that they were getting information?
So part of the communications was initially in the early stages was we have meetings in face-to-face, in-person meetings on the 11th floor in the fire department's conference room, and also feedback from making phone calls or even emails and associated in text messages to be able to communicate on if they have any questions for me or Fire Marshal Dugan. So we was a bit different types of methods of communication. Overall, I think, we always took in consideration the business aspect, but also for the community of each district, and also from the standpoint of fire and police having to enforce the new ordinance. But being able to continue to allow the city to enjoy the fireworks season, but also have safety as a number one priority.
Okay, and I really do applaud you for having kind of a three-tiered approach to making sure that we're getting feedback. I know this is such a sensitive topic, and there are people who, share with us every year that, especially for our veterans my heart aches, who may have PTSD, for pets, for elderly. But then, as you mentioned on the flip side, this is a special time of celebration and community engagement for people too. So a really sensitive topic, and I'm proud that we're trying to find the balance for the community and get as many voices heard as we can. So thank you for your work on this.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Johnston.
Thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it. Do you have a list of the members of the community committee?
I don't have them on me right specifically, but I can get you those members from each district. Yes, sir.
Okay, and how often did you meet with them?
Well, initially, as a fireworks committee, when we initially met and discussed options for us within our committee, and from that standpoint, when we had an idea or to be able to ready to present to the vendors and the stakeholder and the citizens committee, we invited them and just met with them and said, this is the direction. This is our options that we're proposing for the upcoming fireworks season. And from that standpoint, get some feedback from them, and then also from the vendors. And then from that standpoint, we went ahead and come up with this proposal here today.
Okay, overall, would you say they support the change?
Yes, I think so. But again, this is all part of the initial meetings of the two-phase approach. So this was the bigger picture was always presented from the initial meetings from the 2023 fireworks season on how to go about just allowing legalized aerial fireworks, and then from that standpoint to this year itself to be able to sell and also shoot aerial fireworks. And the difference between the two-phase approaches from phase 1 to phase 2 is that in 2023, phase 1, we allowed 4 days of aerial fireworks with no selling of those types of fireworks. To this year, we're proposing just limiting to the 3rd through the 5th, but also allowing the selling of aerial fireworks this year.
Okay, thank you.
Several questions. Diane, can you go to slide number 31, please? I know that you just mentioned that aerial shooting will now take place for 3 days according to this ordinance. Can you share why July 5th? And I know that this is going to be an extended weekend, July 4th. Can you explain that?
Yeah, the reason why we added July 5th is it matches the state statute, because that's one of the things that we did take in consideration when we were proposing a change of the ordinance to match the state statute, because all of our communities around the city of Wichita are following the state statute, and they're able to get those aerial fireworks to bring back into the city of Wichita and shoot them. The other reason is because of the situation that occurred last year, which was basically on the 5th, it was another day of celebration that we were able to enforce the number of illegal fireworks, of the aerial fireworks that were being shot off. So again, just to be able to match the state statute and from learning from past experience of last year, that we wanted to add the 5th to that, especially for this year, taking into consideration is that the 5th is falling on a Friday, from the 4th is on a Thursday.
And then I know that the financial consideration portion mentioned $5,000 in fines. Were there 5 different offenses that happened in 2023?
So from the standpoint on the citations issued, I believe we issued 7 citations, but from the legal perspective or the process of writing the citations, 2 of them or 5 of the total were going to be issued, is my understanding.
And again, the recommendation from not just the Wichita Fire Department, but this committee, along with legal, this goes back in line with state statute, is that correct?
Yeah, so again, and the changes that we made in this 2-phase approach after the 2022 fireworks season, the state statute's always been leading us on the direction of what to allow within the city of Wichita, along with meeting with the vendors and the citizens to explain we're not coming up with our own rules here in the city of Wichita. We're following with the state statute, along with outside communities that continue to follow that and bring in the illegal shooting of aerial fireworks within the city of Wichita, which year after year is very, very difficult to continue to enforce, even with the total number of 10 enforcement teams. And as large as the city is, there's no way that we were able to continue to enforce that citywide. So we created hotspots and concentrated on those hotspots from the data that we received from the hotline from 911 non-emergent line.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Your questions and Councilmember Glasscock reminded me, Chief or Jan, could you explain for the public and even our new members kind of how that enforcement works, that we're not proactively out there. We're in some of the hotspot areas, but if people call, what has to be seen and witnessed by either fire or police and documented before a citation can be written, and why that may contribute to the lower numbers versus what we all see on the 4th of July?
Yes, sir. So basically, prior to the 2023 fireworks season, we deployed fireworks enforcement teams, and it's changed from the initial time when we first started with just fire going out and enforcing this, and we realized it's a little bit more dangerous out there on our own. So we implemented and spoke with our partners at Wichita Police, and they teamed up with us. And basically, what we ended up modifying the enforcement teams is 2 police officers and a firefighter to be able to write the citation, but the police officers were there for us to, for safety purposes, to watch our back, as they say. And also, from that standpoint, concentrating on our hot areas throughout the city, we prioritized those and assigned enforcement teams there. And then we also had some roving enforcement teams to be able to respond to the 911 calls, the non-emergent line calls that were being dispatched to us to go investigate. Part of that process to be able to initiate and issue a citation is that our police officers and firefighters had to actually witness the shooting and of those members in that area. So coming into the neighborhoods and parking and being able to just following up on reports of illegal shooting of fireworks, we had to witness it. We did do quite a bit of public education. You know, we don't see anything specifically. We still probably roll up to that address, talk to the party that's going on, the homeowners, the parents, supervisors, and to be able to make sure that they're aware of the city ordinance and there was a complaint. And then from that standpoint, we'll just go to another call itself.
Councilmember Glasscock.
I'm probably making a loose assumption in this question too, but I realize that it wasn't in the policy as well. You had mentioned that there are security, or not security concerns, but sometimes people might get angry showing up when you're telling them not to be able to shoot off fireworks. I imagine that alcohol probably has something to do with that on that weekend as well. Is someone able to shoot off fireworks while they're intoxicated? Is that a different penalty?
Well, part of our public service announcements is always to make sure that there is a responsible adult that's not under the influence of anything. From that standpoint, we really can't police on of them partaking in any type of alcohol beverages or any type of illegal substance. So it's always beneficial that somebody is sober to be able to make sure that from the family and the kid's standpoint, that there is a safety area from that in that area. But we've had a couple incidents that firefighters and police officers had to call ourselves out in trouble because we were being surrounded from incidents from a party that's under the influence. So from that situation, and we also had early in the enforcement years, we had a battalion chief that was assaulted by flaming balls stick that he got hit upside the head from a citizen. So that is a major concern for us, continues to be while we're enforcing this.
Thank you. I'd also add, so there is no specific ordinance on shooting fireworks while under the influence, but I will add to both council members that we've pulled from state statute this year some good language on seizing fireworks as well. We've always had the ability to seize, but state statute was a lot more specific. So even if we don't see people shooting off fireworks, if we get into a cul-de-sac full of fireworks on July 6th, we can take them. So we are dedicated. We understand there are citizens who get tired of it after July 5th, and we put some specific dates on there. And I think some of that part of the ordinance will give us a little more teeth in, even if we don't see people shooting them, if they run into their house and leave them all out in their cul-de-sac, we're going to have more tools to deal with that problem.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you. Just one last question. I wanted to give everybody lots of opportunity to ask and not take too much time, but I received 3 emails regarding this. A couple, I think maybe 3 or 4, but some for, some against. But one of the questions that was posed, and I did tell the person who sent me the email that I would be sure to bring it up just to make sure. They said the timing of the change seems to be pressed, and will there be ample time for the city staff, retailers, landlords, and consumers to be ready for this change? Could you just address that? And if the committee of staff, the committee of community members, and then also vendors, if that was discussed at all, just to make sure that everybody's going to know what the changes are in the community and be prepared, as well as vendors. Could you just discuss timing and your opinion if you think we're going to be okay?
Yeah, I think the timing of us presenting this is coinciding with last year when we first presented the first phase of the ordinance and change of the ordinance itself. Last year, we were in front of City Council, I think it was May 16th or 17th. And so we're a week after compared to last year for the presentation. One of the things that we do take in consideration that we do talk to and in communication with licensing from the perspective of the firework tent sales. So that's always been a partnership with us and it's licensing to make sure that, from the permitting and the fees, and then being able to receive those and going out to know where those locations of those tents are.
Okay, thank you very much.
I see no further questions for staff. We will now open it up for public comments. Please come forward and say your name and state your address.
Good morning, Council. Jacob Marietta, Wholesale Fireworks, 159th and Kellogg, Andover. I'd like to speak a little bit today. Obviously, this is my world. I'm your problem child here today. Speak about the pro-line professional fireworks. I know Ms. Janice spoke about that, and my legal background is from watching Suits, so we're going to lean on her a little bit on this. I do know this is an upcoming and fast problem for the fireworks industry. This professional grade 1.4 was created on accident by trying to make shipping cheaper for professional grade fireworks. 90% of the fireworks industry, we are fighting as fast as we can to get this ban, this loophole closed. Unfortunately, loopholes open quicker than they're closed. I know the state of Missouri currently has I'm going to call it a rule to ban this coming up very soon. State of Kansas, we are in the very first process of getting it read. It's taking some time. I don't want to see Wichita, if you, with the shooting that we have allowed now, this product coming into the city. It is literally professional grade products that are made to be shot by people with shows, licensing, and everything else. The issue comes in, there is no rule for professional fireworks shooter. So what's happened is people have created a website, you go take a 30-minute class, and they give you a piece of paper that you print off that says you're now professional. It falls under 1.4 UNO 336. So by the current rule that I understand, Jan, and I know this is not my world, the city would not be able to ban it because it's technically legal under those rules. We have to specifically put in some language to ban that product. I've reached out to the head of the National Fireworks Association. It's Mr. Steve Hauser's the president of that. He's working on some information for us. Unfortunately, this came up very quick for us, not knowing this was in there. So to reach out to that, and then our in-house attorney's working on it as well. But I'd definitely like to see some language in the rules specifically banning that product to give the fire department the teeth to get it. I just don't want it to come up to where they want to confiscate it and they're not allowed to. This product is not fireworks. This is not consumer stuff. This is for true professionals, not someone that gets a piece of paper off of the internet. So whatever we have to do to work together, I'd like to, whatever we can do to make sure that, we get those teeth in the rule. The other thing that I will mention, and my time's running up, is that I do think is, the largest vendor in the city, that May 20th is a little late to make a huge policy change like this for us on fireworks. We're 35 days out from opening, 28 days from setting tents, and we're completely changing the rules. So thank you very much.
Member Glasgow.
I do have a question for the previous speaker. Just 1 second, sir. The question I have, you had said about changing the rules this early in advance. What specifically are you concerned about us changing that would have a detrimental effect on your business operations?
Well, we allowed shooting last year, so we were only allowed to sell the safe and sane in the city. Up until Friday, we thought that's what was going to be this year. So at this point in time, as a vendor, I have to completely 180 change my product mix, my tents, and what's happening for my business.
So the concern is that now that we're allowing, or would allow the sale of aerial, that you have to change your inventory before now?
Yeah, so you're letting a whole new category in. So the inventory we had planned is now not completely obsolete, but it's now a 20% of the sales instead of the 100% that it was last year.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Johnston.
I have a question for you too.
Yes, sorry, I'll quit running off.
So do you sell the aerial fireworks?
Yes, we're outside the city.
Andover and outside the city limits?
Yes, sir.
Now, do you have tents inside the city also?
Yeah, I believe last year I was 24 of the 26 permits sold. I've been between 95 and 100% of the Wichita permits for over 30 years.
So do you think it would hurt you to transfer some of those aerials for 3 days, or would it help you sell more of them to those 24 tents?
Well, it's going to come down to I now have 24 tents that need product. My tents outside the city need their product as well.
So you think you'll sell a lot more of them then?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, we're opening Pandora's box.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Dennis Frasco. I'm the Black Cat distributor for this area, and I agree 1,000% with Jacob. This is pretty quick. We can adjust, but this is awful quick. In my business, 90% of our stands are charity driven. They rely on that money for their projects, whether it be supplying food or clothing or training seeing eye dogs or whatever. And this is a pretty important deal. We can't adjust, but this is pretty tight. And then another issue that Jacob talked about, these fireworks that are shooter grade, they're very dangerous. They're really dangerous. So let's say she comes into my stand and says, I'm a professional shooter. I can sell her this stuff that's not on the shelf, but it's really dangerous. I mean, I got to tell you guys, it's pretty serious, isn't it, Jacob? there's people that shouldn't be having this stuff. It's like, what, dynamite kind of in a way? And there's a loophole that's not closed right now, and it's going to be a problem. But this is really quick. I'll adjust to anything. I've never been in Wichita because it wasn't a good business decision for me. But obviously, you go where the business is, but this is pretty quick. That's all I got to say.
Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. A quick question. According to the code, the 1.4, the ones that we're talking about now, are they still going to be eligible for purchase outside of the Wichita area, regardless of whether or not we pass this ordinance?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
The fireworks that we're talking about now, the ones that we have concerns about, are those still going to be eligible through the loophole to purchase in Andover and Goddard,
They
other
are,
places?
yes, we're going everywhere we can, trying to get this loophole closed as fast as we can. We're trying to close it statewide. Unfortunately, like I said, that takes a while to get something through the legislator. So it's one of the things we're trying to go council by council, city by city, and get it closed as fast as we can. And really, I think that's one of the things, Mr. Hauser from the NFA, I mean, that is his life right now, is trying to get this done, and he knows way more about it. He reached out to me about this and said, you've got to get this done in Wichita. We can't have the biggest city in the state allowing this stuff, because a lot of cities follow what you guys do. So if you guys ban this, I don't have to go to every council. They'll know that it's bad and, take you guys' lead on it.
Okay, Jan or Chief, is there anything specifically that we could do to outlaw the fireworks in question here?
And I will mention, this is as a loophole, even with my suits watching legal degree, I know it's a very gray area.
Well, our current ordinance, the proposed ordinance says that a person must only possess consumer fireworks, but we do define consumer fireworks as any firework classified as a Division 1.4G firework by the United States Department of Transportation. We could change the definition of consumer firework to be broader in that I'm just spitballing, but we could change it to nothing that's detonated by electronics. I think we could work to find a definition that could be broader than just the state definition, which is what we currently use. I'd also say, after speaking about this issue some, these have not hit Kansas yet. I think it's a good topic to talk about, but we haven't seen them yet, and we can also control them through our permitting process, which is what Chief mentioned, that we wouldn't give a permit to a seller who's going to retail sell those items. And we could do that now with the ordinance looking the way it currently looks.
Thank you. I'm certainly not a fireworks expert, so I'm going to lean into content experts, legal, et cetera. But and please correct me when I'm wrong, okay? So my understanding is right now, because of the changes that we made, last year, previous years, you can discharge aerial fireworks within the city of Wichita, correct? Right. So the change is now that we can also sell them within the city of Wichita. Is that correct?
Yes.
So if you couldn't sell them before in the city of Wichita, would someone go to like Andover and then purchase them, and they would then bring them back and shoot them off in their backyard in Wichita, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm just a little confused why it's more dangerous if the speakers, I'm just asking a question I don't know the answer to, that it's more dangerous this way when people could shoot them off anyway. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think from the standpoint, I'd like to add some information from Jan and from Mr. Mariota, was the fact that, outside of the city of Wichita, there's still a possibility that those are going to be outside the city also being sold. I think this is where the communication and partnership with our vendors to be aware of those types of fireworks as wholesale fireworks is, to be able to police those items to make sure that they're not going to be supplied in the tents that he has and along with all the vendors. So I think from the standpoint of being able to work with our vendors and also during our fire inspections to have an additional set of eyes, the possibility that they could be missed is to make sure that, you know, those aren't going to be possibly within the tents within the city of Wichita, but not even just within the city of Wichita, even our outside jurisdictions, because we all have the well-meaning of public safety for outside city of Wichita also.
Sure. I just want to make sure, I want to be very conscientious to our vendors, to our entrepreneurs who are, you know, part of our thriving our economy, but then also safety. So for me, it doesn't seem, from what I'm hearing right now, that this is going to make anything less safe because people can already shoot off the arterials. Is that assumption correct?
You want to answer?
This is a new subsection of fireworks that just came out in the last year. This loophole was created about 18 months ago. So we won't carry them, other people won't carry them. There were some in the state of Kansas last year. There was none being sold in Andover. I can tell you that because I know the three of us vendors that are there. All of us are fighting to stop it, but there are vendors in Kansas selling it. And that's why we need Wichita to shut it down so all of the other cities follow.
And if I may, just ask a follow-up question. So they could still shoot them off in Wichita anyway. If nothing changed today, if we didn't pass this and we didn't add the addition of sale of them and we just said, you know, you can discharge them, aerial, somebody could still go to, I don't know, Manhattan or Topeka or wherever and buy them and bring them back. Is that correct?
I would assume. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
I mean,
how
that's the way the
if you can
ordinance-
ban the shooting of them as well as the selling of them. I don't know.
Because we're not
I don't know
changing.
the best way to ban that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so right now, we're not doing anything with
Yeah.
changing discharging, we're just adding the sale of it. So people could still shoot them off.
I would ask for discharge to be banned of them as well.
Okay.
I mean, we don't want these things. And I'm as pro-firework of guys you came. These things aren't safe. You know, I love fireworks. My life is fireworks. I'm 5 generations in fireworks. My family started in 1913. I live and breathe fireworks. These aren't fireworks. These are explosives that people don't need.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Mr. Mariano, may I ask a couple questions,
Yes, ma'am.
follow up before the council members? Can you just explain the different levels of fireworks?
Yeah.
So that I think there might be a little bit of a miscommunication regarding the different types, because aerials can be multiple different types of aerials, and the ones that you're specifically concerned about are the ones that are detonated by an electrical, I guess, device. Can you talk about the different levels?
Yeah, so there's two. There's what's called Class B and Class C. B is your professional, the baseball stadium, big city shows and that. C is consumer. So when you go into the government, there's 1.3 G, which is your professional, the big stuff. You know, 10-inch, 12-inch shells. Not very many regulations in there because it's made for professionals with proper distancing, stuff like that. Then 1.4 G, up until 18 months ago, and don't quote me on the 18 months, in the last year and a half, was consumer fireworks. So it was a great way, and it was designed this way to where cities allow 1.4 G fireworks, and that encompassed all fireworks. When post-COVID, when shipping went ridiculous, shipping a container of 1.3 G, the big explosive stuff, went from around $15,000 to $18,000 to $70,000 to $80,000 a container. So they were trying to make a rule for some of their smaller stuff, which is still way bigger than anything we allow, for them to ship that cheaper under a 1.4, it's like 1.4 parentheses professional. And so they did that for them to ship. Well, some entrepreneur and people figured out that if it said 1.4 on it, it was legal to sell. And that's the hard part of this is the rule's always been the same thing where we had, you know, 2 circles, you could sell this, you couldn't sell this. Now they've kind of snuck in some stuff that we don't want. And so that's where, like I said, I would defer to the NFA and that for the proper language that they're using in Missouri and that to specifically ban these items. And it's just this one little subsection. It's, you know, but we don't want people driving the railroad train through the eye of the needle, you know? Does that explain that? I'm sorry. I'm a rambler and I talk too fast. I'm sorry.
So the aerials that are usually bought in Andover or any of the facilities outside of Wichita, what have they been designated as?
1.4G.
And so this subset is 1.4 parentheses professional,
I believe so. Yeah.
which is different than 1.4G.
And that's one of the issues we're fighting too, is it doesn't have a designated rule for how to market. So that's what's also making it hard to ban. Is, if it was 1.4G.1 or something like that, it would be very easy to limit. And that's what's making this area so gray.
Thank you. Councilmember Glasscock.
One last clarifying question that goes in Mayor Wu's line of thought as well is the concern isn't the 1.4G aerial fireworks being sold, but there's a different classification. So for anybody listening, there's two different things we're talking about. Your concern isn't the safety of the aerial fireworks being sold within the city limits. It's about the 1.4 Pro being sold.
Some people call it Pro line. There's a few names for it. But yeah, the 1.4 Pro.
Okay. Just wanted a clarification that it's
Yes,
not all
thank you.
aerial fireworks.
Yeah,
but
not
it's
all
this
aerials, this-
Specific classification.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Johnston.
Question for you. I presume, are you on the committee, the community committee?
I was up until November before the election.
Well, why did you get off? What happened there?
I don't know. Friday, I found out, like everyone else did, when KWCH, sorry, Lily, notified me that this was happening. That's kind of why this came up last minute, and we're out there. We did not know this was coming until the Google alert hit.
But maybe next year you should get on that committee again.
I'd love to be.
And maybe you could resolve this issue. Really, the issue of selling them in the city is not really an issue for you, though, right?
No, not an issue. It's just the timing of it to switch with 30 days. I mean, literally tents start going up in 12 days. And now I have to come, if you guys pass this today, I've got to go back, start re-switching product lines, what I'm pulling, what I'm putting in tents, tent layouts. I mean, it's just a fast change.
Are they more profitable than the small ones?
Around the same.
Around the same? Okay. So actually, the nonprofits inside the city probably could make additional revenue.
Eventually they will.
Because people don't have to go to Andover to get them.
Yeah. I mean, there's people that run some in town, some out of town. People jump back and forth. They're very similar.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. Jan, if we did pass this today, would there be a fix that would be available before second reading that we can insert into this? Or if we wanted to make sure that we did away with the fireworks that we are concerned about, the electronic fireworks, would that be something that would be more wise to delay this until our next meeting?
We could have a fix by second reading. The easiest way to do it will be through the definition. It'll be easiest for you all to identify, for the community to identify. We'll just tweak that definition of consumer firework.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll continue public comments. Anyone else from the public who would like to speak? I see none. I'll bring it back to the bench. Any further discussion from the bench? Councilmember Hoheisel.
Yeah, tried to shut me up today, right? Thank you, Mayor. There's just a few things I'd like to point out. If we go through with these changes, it is actually going to be more restrictive as far as the days go. Currently, it's July 1st through 4th. It'll be 3rd, 4th, and 5th after these changes. This will help keep it out of the work week for this week. That's one thing that I am very conscientious of. Overall, I think the complaints went down last year from just how I stayed up till midnight every single night. About 12:10, the fireworks would end. So it seemed like it was working for the most part last year. A lot of that is also dependent on the types of neighbors you have, because some neighbors really don't care, and some neighbors do try to be respectful of their community. So I think that's where the rub was for some of the negative effects of this, aside from, of course, proper fireworks storage and whatnot, which is what resulted in, I think, a majority of the property damage that we've seen over the years is people putting used fireworks into the trash can and putting that trash can next to the house, and before you know it, that's the issue that we have. So I did want to point that out to the public. We're just trying to be more conscientious of people during the work week, taking a day off of it and extending it by one day on the backside. Again, that gets us closer to the weekend, the extended weekend. And over the next 3 years, that'll be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then next year, it'll be Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And the year after that, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we're really trying to match us up so that way it's not disrupting people during the work week as much as possible. So I just wanted to make sure that was out there for the public to understand as well.
Councilmember Hoheisel, you were on that committee. Would you like to move?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I move that we take the recommended action that the City Council place the ordinance on first reading and authorize the set necessary signatures with the understanding that there will be additional language added before second reading to address the electronic firework concern.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 6-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Supplemental Design Agreement Number 2 for Bleckley Drive Drainage Improvements.
Good morning, Mayor and council members. Gary Jansen, Public Works and Utilities. I am happy to be here today to talk to you about this project. It's been a long time coming. We're ready to move forward. Pending your approval today for final design for Bleckley drainage improvements. There's a lot that's happened over the years working to get to this point. I want to talk to you briefly about some of the history, our proposed improvements, what they will do, what we've done to this point with public engagement, how that will go forward, and then what our next steps will be. So in November of 2022, and there was a lot that we had looked at with Bleckley even prior to this, just struggling to get to a point to find something that was practical and feasible to try to help solve this problem. But at that point, City Council approved an agreement with professional engineering consultants to provide a feasibility study for drainage improvements for Bleckley, for the Bleckley drainage area. In September of 2023, the City Council approved a supplemental design agreement to refine the proposed improvements, to start looking at some more focused potential options for improvements, including an open the starting design for reconstruction of the open channel between Kellogg and Waterman. In April of this year, a public meeting was held at Robinson Middle School where adjacent property owners were provided an update on the drainage study and recommendations for improvements. We had a very good turnout at that meeting, got some really good feedback from the folks who have lived in this area for a long time, and I think most of it was positive. On May 13th, the District Advisory Board unanimously approved the design concept. So this shows roughly what our project limits are. Kellogg is at the bottom, 13th Street is at the top. Bleckley is generally 1 to 2 blocks east of Oliver. The part that is in blue is where we're proposing to make improvements with an underground drainage system. The part in red was part of the study area that will see improvements but would not have any structural improvements at this time. We could go further north in the future if we find that there is added value. But at this point, it was a diminishing return as we looked farther north. This did not prove to be what I hoped it would be, but I want to explain what you're looking at here. So Bleckley, as far as we can tell, at one time, many years ago, there was a creek running through this area. So this is standing on First Street on either side of Bleckley, looking back down the hill. If you're ever out that way and think about it, you will see just what a depression Bleckley is. And it kind of makes sense what's happening with this drainage basin, why so much runoff piles up there and has created so many problems for so many years. And that's what's created some of our challenge of trying to deal with this. This was a natural waterway for many, many years, and it was developed, so now we're trying to overcome that. These pictures show some existing conditions. On the left, it was a considerable rain event. I don't know exactly when this was, but over the years, we've had issues with cars being floated down the street. Wichita Fire Department's had to be involved with blocking streets off along with emergency rescues. The one on the right is a fairly small rain event, but you can see it's taking trash cans down the street and can create some potential hazardous issues for those that live in the area. So when we started really trying to look at how we could attack this. One of the things that we do in looking at overall drainage is talking about the size of an event. And ideally, what we would like to do across the community is try to be able to accommodate what we call a 100-year rain event. That does not mean that that's something that's going to happen once every 100 years. That means there's a 1% chance that it could happen in any one year. But it's rare that it happens, right? We've seen them over the years in certain areas of Wichita and the cowskin and calfskin basins out west. We've had a few of those. So we started down that path. It's rare that we can make that work because we get to a point that the cost is not feasible. It's not practical. What needs to be built, you end up having to buy properties. We started looking at trying to accommodate a 100-year rain event for Bleckley, and we quickly got to a price tag of $70 million, and it was rising from there. And it was going to be extremely detrimental to the neighborhood. It was going to impact properties, so we decided to take a step back. We have a stream gauge at the pump station at Kellogg and Oliver, and what this shows, I won't spend a lot of time on this, but this shows rainfall information for a 14-year period from 2008 to 2022. We decided to focus on what's actually happening in this basin in the two biggest storms in July of 2015 and July of 2016. And that's where we took our focus to try to find a way that we could accommodate those types of events, because then we would generally take care of the majority of things that happen here. So I'll explain to you what you're looking at here. This is an aerial view of Bleckley. On the left side is Kellogg Drive. On the right side is roughly 9th Street. The top portion is the existing conditions. This is the July 2015 storm that's been modeled to show what happens with Bleckley during that storm. This has been analyzed and considered to be a 50-year event, so 2% chance of an event happening in any one year. If you look at the top existing conditions, you will see that it's darker blue, it's a little bit wider. If you look at 2nd Street, right in the middle of that area, just to the right of that is where the school is at. You can see quite a bit of water piled up in that area. If you look around Central, you'll see it's impacting a lot of that intersection. If you move down then to the proposed conditions, the project that we were proposing, you can see that the blue becomes a lot lighter, which means less depth. You can see that it's narrower, so it's not impacting as much of the right-of-way. If you look at the school area, you'll see a lot less impact to the area around the school. That's generally their playground. And if you get to Central, you can see a real marked difference on what's happening there. That have a lot less impact on commercial development, what's going on in the area. So you really see some improvements between these two with a 50-year event. I'm going to show you another one here in just a minute, but I want to talk about some information that we looked at also relative. This is really what started to make an impact for us, and we felt like we could find a way to get to a solution. So to explain to you what's on this table, and this is looking at from the July 2015 50-year event, on the left side of this table is the intersection, each of the intersections along Bleckley. The next column over is the existing conditions, modeling that storm, what the maximum depth is. I'll come back to that. Then we look at the maximum velocity and then what's called a weighting safety factor. The United States Geological Survey provides that this weighting safety factor is one of the things that's really important to look at when you're looking at life safety in these types of events. And what it does is it takes the maximum depth times the maximum velocity. Anytime you exceed 10 or greater, it becomes a really real problem for life safety. I'm not going to go through all of these, but the darker it gets, the worse it is. So on the depth, the yellow is less than 1 foot of depth, red is more than 2 feet. What I might just ask you to focus on is the second line is Waterman Street, without going through all of these, but I'll just walk you across there and show you that the difference that this will make. The maximum depth during that July 2015 storm as modeled was 2.63 feet with a velocity of 6.18 feet per second, giving that weighting safety factor in excess of 16. And keep in mind, anything over 10 is considered to be a real problem. With the proposed improvements, we take almost 2 feet off of that depth down to 2/3 of a foot. Maximum velocity is under 2 feet per second and a weighting safety factor of 1.22. That is significant during an event like this and makes a huge difference generally on people being able to still do what they need to do. So I just want to mention one of those, and I'm going to go on to this next event and show you that this is even more impactful on the types of storm events that we would see on a more regular basis. The event that happened in July of 2016 was considered a 25-year storm, 4% chance, but probably something that we could see on a more regular basis. And any of the storms we would see would be smaller than this. If you start at the top again, that's the same map you saw, the last one, shows the existing conditions. You see the impact on the school. If you move to the bottom here, you will see a huge difference. Generally, it's kind of hard to pick up most of the areas where there even is any blue. Douglas Avenue, it goes away. Most of Bleckley, you don't even see it. At Central, there's hardly anything left there. We still pick a little bit up to the north because that part's kind of hard to accommodate without really getting into a lot more cost. But we think this one showed as much promise as anything of why this project should work. I'll show you this again. We'll talk about Waterman. During that storm, the maximum depth was 2.5 feet, wading safety factor of 14. You will notice with the proposed improvements, all of those numbers are 0, meaning that we take care of all of that runoff that happens during that rain event. So it was exciting to see this. This makes a lot of sense. It makes us a lot more scientific to show that we think we can really make improvements here. I'll tell you what will happen. There will be, at some point in time, assuming we move forward with this project, if there's a massive rain event, a 100-year event in that basin, there's probably going to be some issues, but they still won't be near as bad as what we see today. I want to talk real quick about the impact during construction, because this is something we started talking to the property owners about. We will continue to talk to them because it's going to take some time for this project to evolve and get built. So what you're looking at here, what's going down to the left is the existing concrete channel that goes to Kellogg. The VA hospital is just down below left of this view. What you see in those dark black lines is the proposed stormwater culvert. This is a big structure, and I'll show you more on this in just a minute, but this is a really big facility. It's what's needed to be able to make this happen. So what happens is those two red lines would be new sewer lines, because the existing sewer is right in the middle of the road. And so something's got to happen if you're going to put this storm sewer structure in there. There's a lot that has to happen with existing utilities. This is going to be impactful to the neighborhood, but what we will do during design, and we have some experience with past projects that I'll show you, is we'll do everything we can to help limit that impact, but there will be times when access will be challenged. We mentioned this to the property owners, and we will come back to them. This is a really good depiction of what shows the cut of the street looks like. That gray box in the middle is the proposed storm sewer structure. At the very downstream end of this project, that structure will be 14 feet wide and 9 feet tall. So it's a very large structure. It'll get smaller as you head upstream. But even at the far upstream end, we're still talking about a box that's 10 by 6. That's what's needed to really make this happen. The green lines are showing the new sewers. The blue lines are showing the new water. It's slow construction, as you've got to go in and do these utilities. If you've got to start moving on this box, it's very slow. What we will do is to continue to look at ways that we can help provide as much access as possible. Again, talking to a lot of the property owners, I think, I don't want to speak for all of them, they're willing to work through this, knowing that there's going to be some challenges, knowing that there's going to be some struggles during construction, but the end result is going to be so much better. The picture in the upper right shows a previous project where we just got started tearing out the entire street, because that's what it takes to get these done. Two more examples on the left was drainage improvements on 17th Street North. You can see the impact that has, taking out the entire street. And I mentioned the size of this box culvert you're looking at here, I think is probably 8 feet wide by 8 feet tall. So keep in mind, ours will be another 6 feet wider and another foot taller. So it's very impactful to what and it's just slow going on construction. I don't want to overplay that, but I just want to make sure everybody's aware of what's going to be coming. So talking about some of the financials, the design fee to date is just under $1.1 million. The proposed supplemental design agreement is $1.359 million for a total design of $2.4 million. I might mention real quick, because this is a sizable project, including on the design side, When we solicited a consultant to begin this project and to develop the design concept, at that time we said once we got to this point, we would have the option to move forward with that same consultant with a supplemental design agreement. So I just want to make sure you knew that. It's fairly standard what we do on these larger projects, but it's important to have that in there as we go forward. The existing budget of $1.3 million of stormwater utility funding was approved by the council in September of last year. So the adopted CIP includes $12 million each in 2024 and 2025, just over $12 million in 2026 for a total budget, $36,125,000, all of which is funded by the stormwater utility funds. Staff recommends initiating an additional $3.4 million at this time for final design, project management, and utility relocations for a revised budget of $4.7 million. I know there's a lot of numbers. We will be coming back to the council at a later date for approval of the construction funds. So I wanted to talk real quick about what's next, because this project's going to take a little while to get done and get to. We would anticipate to start phase 1 construction at the downstream end, which is rebuilding that channel, in 2025. As with a lot of these projects, working with franchised utilities and the necessary relocation, not only public utilities, water and sewer, but franchise utilities is a big deal. I'll mention just quickly to you, there is a communications duct bank in Douglas that serves most of East Wichita that the utility is anticipating could take them up to 2 years to relocate because of all of the splicing efforts. We have started working with them right now to establish them being able to get started so that we can time it, that we can hopefully get there at the same time they're out of the way. We're not going to wait 2 years to start our project. We'll start moving that direction so that we can get there at the same time. Communication of updates with property owners will happen throughout, especially looking at the schedule and the impact during construction. All those things I talked to you about today, as we continue to refine those, we will continue to communicate with, we don't want to show up with the contractor and say we're here without giving them a little bit more idea of what's going to happen at that time. We anticipate to complete the entire project in 2028. I always look at those dates and feel like it's 2024, and that seems like a long time away, but in my 29 years of being involved in building projects, 4 construction years seems to go really, really fast. So I say that to try to be optimistic because I think it will go quickly, but we're just happy to be at this point and being ready to move forward. So with that, staff recommends City Council approve the design concept revised budget supplemental design agreement number 2, adopt the amending resolution, and authorize the necessary signatures, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Questions for staff, beginning with Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you. Great job, Gary, as always, and happy National Public Works Week.
Thank you.
Thank you again for bringing so many of your colleagues up with you. Appreciate that. I love the fact that you're communicating early with residents. I think that's going to be so vital, especially, when people's driveways are going to be impacted, all the things. I am also deeply appreciative of the fact that safety is the #1 priority, it seems like, in this project. So thank you for that. Great job to Councilmember Johnson, who was on KSN this morning, I saw, and was able to give some update for this. I saw in slides of 51 that it's going to be complete in 2028, which, like you said, will be here before we know it. But in the meantime, between now and then, and this is just a logistical question because I'm curious, I'm going to be incredibly supportive of this important project, but when this is already kind of a vulnerable area, right, for flooding, when things are in construction and really being torn up and it looked like big trenches or whatever you call it will be dug, is that going to be even more dangerous if by chance we had one of these 100-year rains during the time, and what's the backup plan?
Very good question. So what happens here with this project in particular, and let me just go back to this map, if I can get there, sorry. So they'll start what we would say down at the downstream end, the bottom end at Kellogg, and that's a concrete channel all the way up to Waterman. They're adjacent to the VA hospital. So just even the work alone on that channel will start to make some improvements. Okay. With rain events, and it won't cause quite as many issues as it does now. So they'll start moving that way. Our contractors know they have to accommodate anything that happens during construction. It's not always ideal, but they will be ready to take that on. It's in our contract documents. They cannot make matters worse. But as they start moving north and putting that box in the ground, they will have measures in place that they can take that drainage effectively through what they have put into the ground at that point. It gets tough, right? And on a project like this, you saw what happens during construction. If we would get a major event, it's going to be a challenge. Luckily, in this area, a lot of the houses set up. I'm not aware over time that there's been many structures that have taken on water. So we have a little bit of freeboard built in, and I don't say that lightly at all, but it's a part of what we do, and that's a great question. So.
And I knew you'd have a great answer. You're the expert, I'm just the advocate. So thank you and great job.
Thank you.
Councilmember Johnston.
Gary, thank you. That 9-foot by 16-foot structure, that allow the water to move faster downstream?
Sure. It will. It'll allow the water to move more efficiently. Once we get the water underground, it'll get things cleared out quicker. I mean, that's part of the formula here, right? Right now, the water's just kind of piling up in the street. It's hitting some of those intersections. It's going down side streets. And it's just not near as efficient as getting in that concrete box. So effectively, yes.
By the way, I've seen cars in the 70s and 80s float down the street there. So.
You are correct.
I
and
chose
that's
not
one of
to
the
drive
things we're
it,
trying to
so,
take care of.
Yeah. When that water hits Kellogg, where does it go?
So it continues downstream. Kellogg is a restriction to this entire area. So I'm glad you asked that, because I'll tell you the question that's been asked is why don't we just open it up at Kellogg? So effectively, Kellogg right now has a metering effect on this water, but it's what causes a lot of this to effectively back up upstream. If we open that up at Kellogg, all we're going to do is take this same problem and move it south. So what we need to do is we're going to leave that in place and deal with it more effectively upstream from there. And that needs to stay there. That channel serves a purpose so that the water can basically pile up in there and be released as it needs to, because if we're not careful, we'll just flood everybody downstream from there at the same time, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Any further questions for staff? I see none. We'll open it up for public comment. I see none. I'm going back to the bench. I know that this resides in Councilmember Johnson's district, but before I'll make a couple of remarks. We did drive by there on Sunday after the rainstorm and saw just how flooded it got on Bleckley. And I felt for those residents over there. And I understand that this is going to be a big investment, but it is going to be through the capital improvement program, as well as stormwater utility funds. And again, this is being spaced out. This project itself is $36 million. And again, a phased approach until it finally finishes, which would be in 2028 if this passes. And again, I saw firsthand just how bad it got down there. And I know that Councilmember Johnson has spoken with residents from that area. So I'll now pass it to Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. First, definitely want to thank our team, Public Works and Utilities team, for all the work that you all have done over the years, all the iterations of this, all the extreme options as well as this one. So I appreciate working through that, and the PEC team. I am excited about this item because I don't think I've ever said this. My first actual House campaign thing was on Bleckley, when the entire group that was there told me that they wanted to finally see a resolution on this. And then Public Works and Utilities, it might have been you, Gary, that told me this was the #1 flooding issue for decades here in Wichita. And now we are here with a design that's going to work and really help this neighborhood. There was only one person I've heard from that wasn't in favor of this, and their only concern was the cost. And they thought we should use gates instead of doing this actual work. Everyone else was okay with the inconvenience because they wanted to see no more cars or trucks going down the street. and going 2 blocks to get their trash cans. So again, I'm excited about all the work and thought that has went into this, the best value for the investment. This is a really good plan. And so with that, I would move that the City Council approve the Supplemental Design Agreement Number 2, adopt the amending resolution, and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 6-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Approval of travel for Councilmember Johnson to the Kansas Commission on Peace Officer Standard and Training in Topeka, Kansas, May 30th, 2024.
I see a motion to approve by Councilmember Glasscock, and I'll second that. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 6-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Approval of travel for Mayor Lily Wu to attend the Kansas League of Municipalities League Governing Body Meeting in Concordia, Kansas, June 7th, 2024.
I move to approve the travel.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 6-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Approval of travel for Mayor Lily Wu to attend the U.S. Conference of Mayors Conference in Kansas City, Missouri, June 20th through 21st, 2024.
A motion by Councilmember Glasscock.
I will second if the mayor will take Station 8 to Mayor Lucas in Kansas City and tell him that we have better barbecue.
I can purchase that.
There we go. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 6-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Council member appointments and comments.
Are there any appointments? I see none. Are there any council member comments? Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. Sunday, my family and I were out at Watson Park during the day, and there was an unfortunate incident that happened out there. A young man did end up drowning in the lake. So we made our way down there as soon as we saw emergency personnel pulling down. First thing I'd like to say is condolences to the family. It's never easy to lose a loved one, especially one in the prime of their life. But I did want to speak about the first responders when they got there. They jumped right in. They immediately began searching for the individual. It really is something to see when people will just throw themselves into a situation not knowing what's going on in there and putting their lives at risk potentially. So I did want to say to all the first responders who were out there that day, WPD and fire, and we had some county colleagues as well show up, and just any first responders we have out there in general, that I do appreciate all the work and effort. And when I see it firsthand like that, it really solidifies just how much you have invested emotionally, physically, mentally, and everything you do in doing your job and protecting me and my family as well as the rest of the community. So I did want to offer condolences to the family and tell all of our staff out there that I really, truly do appreciate the work that they do.
Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you, Councilmember Hoheisel, for your words. I really appreciate that and for you being so thoughtful. I had debated whether or not I was going to make this comment, but since you did, I'm just going to pile on a little bit. Saturday at my own home, I had an incident, and within 2 minutes, 3 minutes, Wichita Fire Department was there. And they came in, they kept me calm, took care of the situation, made sure that everything was okay. And it was just, it really resonated with me that these could be my neighbors. It could be Councilmember Johnson's neighbors, any of us. So just thank you to our first responders, police and fire, but seeing it firsthand and having it impact me personally really just shed more light on the great work that they do and how lucky we are in our community to have professionals who are willing to put their lives to be able to take care of ours. So thank you.
Thank you, council members. Any further comments? I see none. I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Excuse me, Mayor. And we have a.
Oh,
blue
we
sheet.
have one more. I was trying to, okay, sorry. We have a special executive session. I move that the city council recess into executive session for 30 minutes to receive information on municipal court judge vacancies pursuant to KSA 75-4319B1 to again discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel. The executive session is required to protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual. Do I have a second? I motion to.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Oh, Councilmember Johnson, sorry.
What time does executive session start?
Sorry. It will begin at 11:10. We'll come back at 11:40. Motion second. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 6-0. We will return at 11:40 a.m.